I don't plan to, but I am a little cripple boy from Washington.
Yeah. And hey everybody. How's it
Hey,
going?
everybody.
It's another Sunday and I think we've been abandoned.
Are we the orphans of the gospel?
I mean, we might have to take in we might have to take in some strays to take care of the content while we're while Church is having to deal with his life and Ayrton is dealing with his life.
Look, all we have to do is send out some adventurers to light the signals. Tell the church the gospel sends for aid.
Ah. So how you been, Joe?
Oh, I mean, it's a day ending in Y. For why am I here? Why do we suffer? But no, it has been a very like rich week, oddly enough. Not in money, but like in knowledge and talking points. We got a lot of stuff tonight.
I mean, a figure who dominated our culture for both of our lives created a state, and that government may get overthrown soon.
Which state is that?
Iran, the
Oh,
Persian people may decide to kick out the theocrats.
finally.
They may call the Shah back
Yeah.
as a temporary stabilizing figure. Things are going on out there, folks. And if you don't take a
I mean,
moment, you're gonna miss it.
quite frankly, I'm gonna pull out some obscure internet right now. 2 minutes in, and we're gonna go deep. Have you ever heard of Vagrant Holiday?
The name sounds familiar.
He was a YouTuber and deadpan snarker who,
Mhm.
during the pandemic and just before it, made a succession of videos about how you, the no one, could travel on the cheapest dime
Oh
and
yeah, that
stay places,
guy.
essentially illegally. And now, mind you, he very clearly said you shouldn't, and he was an idiot for doing it. But he made about 4 or 5 videos of some of the most interesting shit you can imagine, right?
Mhm.
Um, and stopped basically because if he's to be believed from what I've been able to source together on the internet, because it A just wasn't fun anymore, and B he had a couple of unpleasant close calls, like when he was in Mexico and his he got uh his camera smashed slash stolen by a passing dude on a bike,
Mhm.
right? Like a dirt bike type deal.
Mhm.
So some of the places he went as a low key tourist, like he met the best parts of those countries sometimes. But one of his last videos was him going to the Chaz, the autonomous zone on Capitol Hill, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And he was just filming. He was not commenting. It was not his way to make a great deal of
Mhm.
editorial, right? Just you, a person, getting a ground view on what does this all look like,
Hey
and
kids, look at
some
the urban plight.
right, and some radicals jumped in his face for being a white dude with a camera, and he's like, "Why are you filming? Who gave you permission to film? What are you filming?" It's like, and he got the fuck out of there, right? And since the Chaz collapsed, we have heard about how it was basically run by warlords. It instantly turned to crime and violence. There were a smattering of murders, right?
Rapes, all that good
Oh
stuff.
yeah, all the good stuff. The second that civilization was no longer there to moderate civilization, civilization fucking collapsed. And why would I mention this? Because Minnesota has decided to try Chaz 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Well, there's been a couple of Chaz likes, And the Chaz really was just ripping off what they did way back with Occupy Wall Street. Although what happened with Occupy Wall Street was funnier. Do
Well,
you remember Occupy Wall Street?
I do remember Occupy Wall Street, and I remember being deeply affected because I saw a documentary made by, yes, the man himself, Breitbart, before he died.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this was when I started to put together that there was a deep disparity in our country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just hear me out. Understand that what I'm about to spread is not the 100%
Also,
truth.
guys, this is actually going somewhere related to comics. Believe
It
it or
is.
not.
So when Occupy Wall Street first happened, in my little lefty leaning heart, I was like, yeah, tell those guys how it is. Because even then, already, we were starting to feel the pinch in the blue collar and working class, right? The people talk about the pinch now. It's like, motherfucker, do you remember the pinch then? Because let me tell you, it's way worse if you're poor. Right?
Mhm.
And at first I was super enthusiastic, but over time I was like, wait a minute, all of the named somebodies are coming out of the woodwork. And people are like, what do you mean? It's like, well, there's the Reverend Jesse Jackson, famous race baiter and bullshit artist who tried to steal the legacy of Martin Luther King, right? There's a bunch of 1960s and 70s failed hippies talking the talk and walking the walk and turning it into their advertising front. And I started talking to some people who had actually been at Occupy Wall Street. And they said, yeah, man, like after the first week, they started pushing us into the park. And once we were in the park and out of sight, nobody cared.
Well, here's the
Right.
fun part. Here's another fun aspect to that. Do you know why they adopted the progressive stack there?
I do not.
Well, there was a council that was administering the protests, and there were several unusual groups that had a seat on the council. One of them was Anonymous.
Right. The actual
known-
Anonymous.
and another one was the Juggalos.
Yeah.
And Anonymous and the Juggalos decided to encourage these sorts of politics with the other members on the council because it would be very funny.
As is the way of internet trolls.
And I was watching Thinking Critical with Wes, and he brought up some old news that kind of ties into all this with G. Willow Wilson talking about Miss Marvel.
And this actually relates to the other half of my thing, which is I watched this documentary by Breitbart, and it revealed some of the things I'd been concerned about, how the lefty was not like an honest actor in Occupy, but at the same time I'm watching it. Let me tell you guys, even then, the righties, right, the right activists, also not honest actors. Everybody's pushing narratives, and as we dig into this commentary, I want to presage us by leaving you with something to think about. Thinking Critical is also pushing a narrative. Because some of his comments that we're going to address are objectively wrong or are exaggerations designed to evoke a response from you.
So first, why don't you talk about what your thoughts were with this video before we put it up?
Okay, so having already, I'm not, because I wasn't trying to salt the well. Having already espoused that I think Thinking Critical was pushing a narrative, it is also an extremely even-handed presentation of the material, because he at least lets G. Willow Wilson speak for herself.
Which was a terrible idea, of course.
Right. The thing is that where the disparity comes in is his interpretations of what she means when she says it versus what is actually said. Now, what is actually said is, in my opinion, objectively disingenuous. Right?
All right, here we
But
go.
but what she said is not what he says it is. And I think that's where we're gonna have interesting conversation.
Let's hit the play button.
Most writers, and I think it's an unfortunate thing, they try to write something that they think a certain audience might enjoy. I've never been able to do that because I can't put myself in the mind of other people.
The top 9 best-selling comics in 2025 list just dropped. Only one Marvel Comics title made the cut, a crossover with DC, Deadpool Batman. So why did Marvel, the house that Stan and Jack built, become something comic readers actively avoid? Because they changed the rules.
Well, first of all, this is unfair. In a point, saying readers were avoiding Marvel, that's not what's going on. What's going on is Marvel is not supplying things that readers have any interest in. Those are two very different things. And that's a little hyperbolic. Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. But that's not even where I started to have a problem. Like
Full of
this
comics.
opening,
They
I'm fine
stopped writing for comic
All right,
readers and started chasing millennials. And the people who did it bragged about it. In a 2016 TED Talk, Miss Marvel co-creator G. Willow Wilson proudly explains how Marvel changed its definition of a successful comic. If you accept her definition, the outcome was unavoidable. Entertainment became optional, story became secondary. What mattered was the message. And that's still true at Marvel today. Once you hear her map it out, you realize Marvel didn't lose its way. They chose this. Bad comics are the standard now. Before we go any further, if you're looking for a comic company that still values comic fans, look no further than the 616 Comics. They're home to the best deals on ratio variant covers and produce the sickest exclusive covers you can only find on the 616comics.com. Discount code in the video description. Now, back to G. Willow Wilson's confession. To understand how this collapse was engineered from within, you have to start with the moment Wilson said she knew Miss Marvel was doomed to fail.
A series like this was, by the superhero industry math of the time, doomed to fail. It was the trifecta of death. New characters don't sell.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment.
Well, no, let her finish her quotable because it's
Okay.
Female characters don't sell. Minority characters don't sell. In order for a series like this to succeed, it would have to shatter decades of conventional wisdom.
All
okay,
right.
now we can dig into it.
So, first of all, new characters struggle to sell, but frequently the problem is, well, why is this person here? For example, they've had several attempts to give Spider-Man a sidekick. And hilariously, one of those was a gay sidekick that was actually very, very popular, but they decided to axe the character because they couldn't figure out what to do with him.
Right. This is the first point in this video where I was at odds with the commentator for what he's about to outline, because if we take it as standalone, because she's going to build her dialogue, we'll get there.
Well,
But if
she's,
we start-
she's also polishing her apple here.
Yeah,
She's saying the world was against me.
right.
And that's not true.
Well, here's the thing. It's not true that the world was against her, but the basic suppositions are not wrong. New characters do tend to sell poorly compared to established characters,
But that's
as you
because
said.
of bad editorial
Right.
decision making. Minority characters, it's very hit or miss.
Right. Because a minority, by definition, unless handled well, does not speak to the majority of readers. Right? It speaks to a minority of readers.
You know, Luke Cage did well because he came out at the right time in the right place
Right.
for a cool blaxploitation character.
And
Blade was again the right time, the right place.
and this is the very interesting one here. It's not that female characters don't sell well. It's that if you make a female character, unless it is handled well, you more or less cut out at least half of the reading populace, because men prefer to read books about men that they presumably want to be or want to experience their adventures, right?
And what women who read adventure fiction also
Right.
For
Women
stories
prefer
about
to
men.
read stories about men, whether because they want to view them as good-looking men getting shot at, like my mother would have just described it, or whether they just like the adventure, right? So
And women
female-led,
who like female stories tend to gravitate towards slice of life, which we will get to
Right.
later in this video.
that's like female-led female fiction for females is not a non-existent subset of the market. It is a very small subset of the total market. So that's a bad design choice in the offing. Where I think she starts to reveal the undercurrent, where I think we start to show the real problem, is when she postulates. So I had to break these assumptions. It's like, no, you made the assumptions, you selected for them. If you wanted to break barriers, you should have presented your character in a way that appealed to that wider audience, not the smaller audience.
All right.
There it is. Her opening assumption going into Miss Marvel is implicit but unmistakable. Comic book fans are too bigoted to support female.
Well, that's not what
Yeah.
she said at all.
And that's what I mean. That's not what you said. That's not what's being presented, but that's what he's going to say, and that's a narrative. That is a
Or
perspective
minority
being pushed.
heroes.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel was treated like a loss leader before a single issue shipped. Can you imagine Brian Michael Bendis creating Miles Morales with that mindset? If
Okay,
he had,
So
yes, I can, because he did.
Brian Michael Bendis literally made the base story for Miles Morales off of things that happened to his foster kids.
No.
He adopted some black kids, and he was going through experiences with them in their schools, and that inspired him to write Miles.
It's not just that though, because this is the very key point. If we're gonna talk about Kamala, we're gonna put Kamala in context, right?
Mhm.
Then we got to talk about Miles. When
Mhm.
Miles Morales came out, they said Miles Morales is a mixed race Spider-Man, and mixed race is a dodge so they can avoid accusations that he's a black Peter Parker, which is what he is.
Well, I mean, he's black and Dominican, so I mean,
Right, but the emphasis is the idea is that they can basically get away with saying, "Oh well, he's not black, he's not like Luke Cage, but he's not he's everything." And then the one that I remember, the one that sticks with me, is because they've downplayed it heavily since, right? Is well, he's the Tiger Woods of Marvel,
yep.
right? Now Tiger Woods is a black man. Get fucked, Tiger.
But
Come
more,
get me.
but more importantly, he was a very successful brand at the time.
He was a successful brand at the time, and if you asked him in interviews, he insists that he's Blasian, that he's a range of different ethnicities. So this is the same game.
And
Right.
also, this was early on when Obama was starting to percolate. Both of these comics
Right.
were Obama era adjacent.
And that's the thing, is that this is a Blasian Spider-Man for the Obama generation. That was the drive from Miles Morales. Miles Morales was never made with a creative intent. Even if Brian Michael Bendis really did want to tell very personal stories about, I adopted some kids and it's hard because I'm white and they're not. But the fact of the matter is that Miles Morales is a politicized character. And if you said, I don't want this, I want Peter Parker, right? I'm invested in Peter Parker, you were a racist, bigot, homophobe.
But also, Ultimate Marvel felt that they had done everything they could do with Peter. And
Right.
this was this is breaking all the assumptions and all the barriers.
But and here's the thing. I have always said Miles Morales worked in Ultimates.
Hmm?
In the Ultimates line, they killed Peter Parker. Peter Parker was stone fucking dead. And they said, here's an inheritor Spider-Man for the Ultimates universe. Fine. I'm not reading it, but I have no problem with it. Because I wasn't reading Ultimate Spider-Man either.
Something else of note, they said that they could tell new stories with Miles.
Which
And
they then didn't.
yeah. Instead, we got Spider-Man stories, but this time with Miles.
Right. But this brings us back to Kamala because okay, well, Kamala is going to be a Pakistani Muslim in a given region of Jersey, which we'll get to that in a minute. That's going to be fun. What are her stories? Oh, they're basically Spider-Man stories, but what if Spider-Man was a girl and a Muslim?
Yeah. So let's hit that play button.
Failure really would have been inevitable. Marvel, Disney, and Sony would have left hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, but Bendis didn't. He treated Miles like a character who had to work because Marvel expected him
quick
to.
Notation. This is also disingenuous because Marvel or Disney only picked up Marvel after Marvel was successful with Fox making a couple of movies, right? Because if you remember, the first Iron Man is not a Disney movie.
It's Universal, if I remember.
It's something. But the other major component is Miles Morales is not Spider-Man. Tom Holland is Spider-Man. Miles Morales is a Spider-Man in animated features that are a side gig.
But
right?
they actually took Miles Morales' story and used it for Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Right, but the implication of what he is implying is, well, Bendis was successful and that drew in Disney. No, it didn't. I hate to tell you, but
I think the implication is that Miles the comic made money.
But here's the thing. Iron Man versus Stain. That's a classic Iron Man book. I used to own it. Right? Thor's Fall. That's Descent into Mystery. Right? While Captain America is just Captain America in the Red Skull, and he had dozens of those books. Right? Winter Soldier and Brave New World, while different disparate bits of several stories, are at least based in classic stories. Guardians is its own thing. It does some mix-ups, but it's also classic characters from classic sources. Ego the Planet is an actual thing in Marveldom, right? And I hate to tell people, but this is an important thing I have brought up. Civil War was not Civil War. The Civil War book, the Civil War event looks nothing like the movie. Okay? But Infinity War and Infinity Gauntlet and Endgame, right? That's the Infinity Gauntlet comic. That is a 1992 Jim Starlin.
Yep.
Okay? They made the brand on classic fucking books. Good books. And part of the reason the MCU is doing bad now is not some unilateral the message element, although that's a wonderful dodge that they try to use, right? It is because rather than use classic stories, they said, hey, what if we use more modern stories that fucking suck?
No, that's not the issue.
I mean, it's both, but carry on.
No. So they literally did the reboot, which we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Right.
And they did brand new, all different Marvel. What if we start making the stories for the next wave of movies? Riri Williams was invented to be Riri Williams Iron Man in the movies.
Right, but they're bad.
Well, right. But you see, they're not being based off of bad stories. The bad stories were R&D, and they didn't course correct. But let's resume.
Right.
Miles was written to entertain readers, to build momentum, and to earn his place in Marvel's pantheon. That's how you create a new hero who actually succeeds. Marvel already had the blueprint. Stan and Jack proved it. Chris Claremont proved it. Bendis proved it with Miles.
That blueprint was
new
called
characters
Peter Parker.
can work. Diverse characters certainly can work. The rule was always the same. Tell good stories, respect the audience, and let the sales decide. Instead of trusting those rules, sales and fandom, they decided the rules were problematic? Write that down. It's important. Then came the sweet taste of irony. October of 2014, Miss Marvel Volume 1 releases. It's a surprise success. Bookstores sell out. The trade...
50,000 comics, not your sell-through number. And the way comics were starting to sell at that point was based off of you buy a certain number of comics to get the variant. The variant is the one that's worth money. So it it was very much a speculation investment. And of course, this was when the library strategy was used, where librarians were buying comics in bulk because it was an easy way to fill youth quotas. And in cases where there were grants that required diversity, this was a perfect product for that. So with all of that in context, the 50,000 sales number is anemic. But the people running the company didn't understand how their business numbers worked.
It hits the New York Times bestseller list. For a moment, it looked like Marvel hit the jackpot. A new superhero fans were ready to back in a big way. But Kamala Khan never reached those heights again. Despite years of aggressive promotion, the character bombed in comics, video games, television, and film. Why? Because Marvel Comics and G. Willow Wilson slipped a poison pill into Miss Marvel from the very first issue. By her own admission, they assumed comic fans were bigots who would never accept Kamala Khan, and they wrote the book as if their own customers were the enemy. But the audience showed up to support the book. They wanted a new heroic underdog. What they got instead were lectures in cultural lessons.
And you see here, this is a slice of life story based on what you can see here. Mom and dad are drinking tea. They're talking about, face cream.
I think this is the point where it is extremely important to bring up something that Ty and I looked up. So, as I said, I watched this just before show because I had about a half hour, 20 minutes before show, and I was between things. And I like to actually do homework for this show occasionally, actually participate. And so I looked up G. Willow Wilson, Gwendolyn Willow Wilson.
Yes.
First of all, she white. Does that matter? No.
She's a convert. Also doesn't matter.
No, it's not just a convert. No. This is extra funny. She's an American from New Jersey.
Yes, where Kamala Khan is based.
Right. Her parents were atheists who had broken away from Protestantism. Okay. Willow went to Boston U, and during her sophomore year, began experiencing physiological problems with her adrenal gland. And so while she was unwell and having difficulty in school, started checking out different religions. And she went through Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, and after studying Judaism, checked out Islam. And she almost didn't convert because of the 9/11 attacks. Okay? In 2003, shortly before graduation, she agreed to teach English in Cairo. And during the plane journey, she converted to Islam, stating she made peace with God. According to a piece called Butterfly Mosque. Upon arriving in Cairo, she secretly practiced Islam, which seems weird considering it's an Islamic country. They'd probably be okay with that. But after becoming engaged to an Egyptian, she began to practice it more openly, which is why she's wearing the Western favoring hijab, the style of hijab that doesn't make people's eyebrows jump, in this TED Talk. So let's be clear here. An American tourist converted to a religion from a part of the world she's not from, and then proceeded to write a character that is basically ascended fan fiction of the person she wishes she was, set in the same city she's from, right? With a cavalcade of caricatures of an idealized Muslim society that she is only loosely associated with because her husband lets her work.
Let's continue.
The audience didn't reject Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel rejected the audience. A well-run publishing house would have looked at this first wave of support and the crash that followed and said, "We were wrong. There is an audience for Kamala Khan." Comic books didn't need a change. Marvel's assumptions about their audience did. Unfortunately, that kind of leadership wasn't in the room at Marvel in 2014. What followed wasn't an accident. It was the beginning of a decade-long decline.
Since there was a possibility that this series was going to be an epic flop, I felt I was at liberty to tell exactly the kind of story I wanted to tell. We had nothing.
Now, this is a common meme among Marvel creators. Chris Claremont said that about his rebooting of the X-Men.
Well, here's the thing, because this was my comments to Ty, was that's why I read third tier superhero books. Right? Moon Knight is shit in the Avengers. Whenever they try to make him tentpole, he's a joke whenever he's partnered with some other hero. But I love Moon Knight's solo book, right? Because it's the environment where he can be him and they can do what they want to do with him. The problem here is not the intent. Her stated belief is not wrong. As you say, Claremont with the X-Men.
But her saying that is PR.
Her saying that is PR, but also I find it very pertinent. At no time does anyone say, well, if you don't like Moon Knight, you're a racist, bigot, homophobe.
Well, I mean,
right?
Mark is Jewish, so you'd be.
I mean, he is. I mean, sure. But, you know, as the comics point out, he is a Jew that broke with his own religion and then started following an Egyptian god.
Who may or may not just be an alternate personality in his head.
Who may or may not just be Mark being fucking crazy. But here's the thing. I also like Morbius, and Morbius in his standalone books is usually second or third string. It's a long time since 1990 when he had a 2-volume plus run, right?
We really liked vampires back then.
We did, and Morbius was good. But here's the thing. Those books were never tentpole. They were never front of the bus, right? They were niche books for a niche audience that likes weird shit, right? And it's a stable audience insofar as long as the books are good, we'll keep reading, right? Miss Marvel is supposed to be front row. Miss Marvel is supposed to carry the company forward.
Because it was edited by a former Obama staffer.
Right.
Who was Muslim. And it had a Muslim artist.
Right.
But it was an all Muslim book all the way down.
But here's the thing. Muslim artist, fine. Former Obama person, fine. This is not the stage. This is not the point at which to kick boundaries and then point in people's face when they get hit by debris and laugh at them. This is when you put on you pull up your big girl panties, you put down your hat, and you do your best work, because you need to put your best foot forward. You need to say, yep, we're doing a book about a Muslim superhero that's a woman in America, and we need you to see past those things to the heroism inherent in the person.
Well, we're gonna you have set me up for a unplanned bit of content.
Excellent.
We had nothing to lose is something you expect to hear from Stan Lee in the early 60s, you know, before Fantastic Four #1, when Marvel barely existed and Atlas
Comics that was published by Stan's brother at the time. And he said, those fuckers over at Detective Comics, they're publishing the shit out of superheroes. Stan, make a superhero book.
Yeah.
Stan didn't have anything to lose because he was still going to have a job working for his brother.
Comics was an afterthought next to DC. You might expect to hear it in the late 90s when Marvel was crawling out of bankruptcy and throwing Hail Marys just to survive. But in 2013, 2014, Marvel had everything to lose. The company was coming off its third great creative peak after the Stan and Jack years and the Jim Shooter era. Events like Infinity and Age of Ultron were still clearing 6 figures per issue. Not peak sales, but numbers today's Marvel would kill for. And outside comics, maybe you heard about this one. The MCU had already blown up. Iron Man, a former B-lister, was now a billion-dollar franchise. Scott Lang, the Ant-Man, was on his way to headlining a trilogy of films. Marvel Comics wasn't in Hail Mary mode. It was the creative engine feeding the most successful media empire in entertainment. When Stan Lee took risks, he was trying to save
on this show. As we've discussed on this show, no, it wasn't in Hail Mary mode. It was on life support. We have been critical of various movie companies supporting comics before because that drip feed of money will dry up if they stop pleasing their corporate masters.
But let's continue.
Company. When G. Willow Wilson says she was free to tell exactly the kind of story I wanted to tell, she was cashing checks from a Disney-backed imprint riding the hottest movie franchise in history. That's not bravery. That's the safest stunt imaginable in modern comics. It was an excuse that freed editorial to stop treating readers as customers altogether and start treating the direct market like a nuisance they could afford to lose. An excuse to reshape comics into something more instructional than entertaining. The Burger King Kids Club, if you will. Bright colors, moral lessons, all delivered in a tone that talks down to the people paying for entertainment. But comics aren't after-school specials running on good intentions. They survive on readers coming back every single week, or their
they can be. That's not hard.
Superhero fix. That requires great characters. Pacing.
As a for instance here, Gwendolyn's supposed first comic was an anti-smoking X-Men short.
Yep.
Escalation, payoff, and the kind of stories G. Willow Wilson and company felt free to tell proudly checked none of those boxes. But Marvel thought they could pretend Wednesday Warriors didn't matter because trades would show up in every school library and get glowing reviews. They treated 2014 as a now or never moment, not to tell great stories, but to fix comic books forever. This idea did indeed become a self-fulfilling prophecy. By 2025, Marvel Comics has nothing left to lose because they lost the fans who built the company. Because Wilson wasn't writing a new character, she was changing who the company thought it was writing for. And that mistake would haunt the next decade.
I wasn't interested in writing some kind of model minority book. I wanted to do more.
Well, Kamala goes to elite science prep school in Jersey City. Her dad's a banker. I believe her sister's married to a doctor. Doesn't that sound like a model minority book to you, Rune?
I don't even know what a model minority book is. I need that explained to me.
The Cosby Show. The Cosby Show was originally supposed to be about a blue-collar black family. Bill Cosby said, but what if they're not blue-collar? What if one's a lawyer and one's a doctor?
Okay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Because I'm an old man and I have seen Sanford and Son and the Jeffersons and whatnot. Is not being blue collar also a model?
No.
Because
the model minority is one of the good ones.
Right. That's not a model. That's an idealized. That's an idea of what we want to be. Right.
Right. That's the model the minority should follow. Is the critique.
Right. But the thing is that from a certain perspective, right, the idealized blue collar, right, the funny but smart but poor but they love each other together family is also an artificial model.
Right, but that wasn't.
It's
done
just not it's not an aspirational one. This is
also,
why
it was not designed to make white people feel comfortable with minorities.
Right, but here's the thing. The reason I bring it up is because, like, the Jeffersons and Roseanne end on the same arc, if you don't recall.
But no. But the model
They
minority is
win the
meant to make-
lottery and become rich. They become not the model anymore.
Yeah, but the model minority is meant to make the majority feel comfortable. So instead of Kamala Khan coming from a more brutalistic immigrant scenario, coming from a Pakistan or a Bangladesh that suffered from war and turmoil, and that the family's struggling to get by, as many migrants are, they're elite migrants. It's made to make white people feel comfortable. That's her critique. As a white person.
Well, my curiosity would be, what were the jobs of her parents, who lived in Jersey, then moved to Boulder, and now she lives in Seattle?
That is a good question.
Because I, a poor person, my folks moved up here in '82, not long after I was born, right?
Mhm.
And I have moved. It is true. I moved between Lacey, Tumwater, and Olympia. But you
Which
know
mo-
what? Those
which most-
three cities are about an hour apart from each other, if that.
And most people wouldn't know the difference of those cities if it bit
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I have never left this state. I mean, I have left this state for trips, but I have never moved out of this state. I was not wealthy enough to have that widespread of exposures, right? But you know who might? If one of my parents was a banker. Just saying. Seriously, how much of this is Willow Wilson's ethno LARP fan fiction?
A very, very good question.
That's also a horrifying term. We need to copyright ethno LARP.
To create a love letter to the younger millennials who were the series' target audience. I wanted to create a hero from a background that is often misunderstood and maligned, for a generation that is often misunderstood and maligned.
Creating outcast archetype characters that readers who feel misunderstood can relate to is not a novel concept in comic books. Comic readers were connecting with that setup.
Man, what if you had a religious character who was defined by his religiosity, and that created contrast with his outward appearance and how society viewed him, and then that expression of religiosity had to be a character trait showing a strength and a resilience. I mean, man, could you imagine if that was the first Muslim comic book character of note?
I mean, yeah. I even think there is such a character. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of X-Men out there. Can you think of an X-Man who's kind of like that?
I mean, I paused the video on that one.
Oh, I mean, no. I think he's gonna mention the other one.
Long before G. Willow Wilson learned how to write as a child. The fact is, Arnold Drake did it better with Doom Patrol. Stan, Jack, and Claremont certainly did it better with X-Men. Warren Ellis did it better with Midnighter and Apollo. And the list.
No,
I mean, let's not go crazy now.
No. Midnighter and Apollo were literally based off of Batman, Superman / fic. And it hurts me that I know this.
It hurts me that you know this too.
Literally goes on for miles before you reach G. Willow Wilson or any of the modern Marvel writers who thought they were breaking ground. The difference is, professionals like Warren Ellis knew that if Midnighter and Apollo were only about
Again,
being
let's
gay,
not go crazy.
it
I
wouldn't
wouldn't call
land.
Warren Ellis a professional.
Also, let's be real here. Apollo and Midnight are only about being gay.
They really are, but there's a key element here, so I have to give Thinking Critical some credit. Again, solo books. Midnighter is actually a fun character when he has to interact with normal people.
Yeah, he's basically a less dirty version of Rorschach.
Yeah, in in Midnighter's standalone, when he was on the run and was doing hero stuff, he wasn't busy being gay, so he was a great character. But when Apollo and Midnighter are together, no, it's 90% gay jokes about how gay they are with a side of gay, but you never actually see them do anything gay until they have their incredibly cringe wedding.
Yeah.
And not because comic readers are homophobes, but because we read superhero comics for the main event, heroism. So they were introduced as badasses first, lovers second, and guess what? Nobody cared because the characters were simply awesome. Kamala wasn't written to connect with fans. She was written to correct them. The whole comic centered on her identity as a female Muslim superhero. Also, not a novel concept. Marvel had introduced Dust more than a decade earlier. Miss Marvel comics weren't about defeating villains and saving the day. They were about challenging the system, validating identity, and teaching readers about her culture. From this point on, the comics were aimed at institutions and online validation, not the people in comic shops.
This
shift is the hint.
There's the thing. I, as a reader, don't care for Dust. Okay? My knee-jerk reaction when I saw Dust was, oh, Jesus, really? And then I moved on. But I have a friend who's really into Dust, and I was like, why? What's the big deal? Okay, it's a mutant from the Middle East with desert powers. How brave and stunning, right? And she wears the hijab, right? And they informed me that it's like, yeah, Dust wears the hijab to express her beliefs. She's not for some of the more awful things her religion does or that people have done in the name of her religion. She is a mutant fighting the good fight for mutants, but she didn't give up on her faith to become an X-Man.
I mean,
and I was like, you know what? That is a solid characterization. That is a worthy drive to both be for the popular good and to struggle under the oppressive dictates of culture that you are part of but do not agree with. That's worthy of some other characters I could think of. Some heroic characters, like Daredevil.
Yeah.
Hinge for everything Marvel does for the next decade. But here's the real kick in the pants. That misunderstood generation Wilson was writing for, they didn't want Miss Marvel either. Not in comic shops, not in video games, not even on Disney+. They found manga, Attack on Titan, One Piece, Spy Family, because those books delivered real conflict, stakes, power fantasies, and emotion, not lectures.
And they did that by using the classic type of storytelling that Marvel used in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So,
Marvel wasn't just out of touch with its old readers, it completely misunderstood the ones it wanted to. The people Wilson claimed to represent voted with their wallets. And they didn't choose Kamala, they chose Naruto. Once Marvel gave themselves permission to stop writing for their customers, all Wilson and Marvel editorial needed to do was define what success would mean moving forward.
None of my other books had sold on this scale, so he might well ask, what's the secret? And I told him honestly, the secret is the audience. The angry, joyful, uninhibited, multi-ethnic, multi-everything millennial audience.
Now this is also a meme. I've talked to several people who work in comics.
I wish to quote Ty directly. You fart huffing fuck.
So here was the philosophy. Here was the philosophy behind it. I talked to several people in Marvel. People you might have heard of. Like a little guy named Kurt Busiek, who did Astro City and the Avengers, among other things. They believed that the comic book buying audience is young people, even though that's not what the sales numbers indicate. And so they needed to create comics that reflected the lives of the young people, and then they would buy them. This is what the thought inside the Marvel Comics offices was. And she is repeating what the people who hired her as a product of low expectations believed. I know you sometimes get critical about me about being a monoculture, but here's a perfect example of the monoculture. Everybody believed the same thing. Facts be damned.
All right, so let's clarify a term here real quick. I don't disagree with the existence of the monoculture or the influence of the monoculture.
Well,
If we wanted,
I was also using
if-
monoculture differently than what we're talking about. But
right, but what I'm saying is that if we wanted to instead call it consensus culture and talk about the idea of people being unwilling to go against the consensus because the consensus will penalize you for going against it, I'm on board. My thing is that I don't go all out to assert that the people who are essentially afraid to contest consensus, whether it be for comfort or cowardice, are also brainwashed robots.
I mean, being brainwashed implies they had a brain in the first place.
All
I mean, being
Adrian and
stupid is
Sana and I
totally a
did was
thing,
hold
yeah.
up a mirror.
She forgot, or maybe never realized, readers don't buy comics to see themselves. They buy them for something more, for escapism. For decades, Marvel Comics became the market leader with a very simple measure of success. Did the book sell, and did fans care? That's not what Wilson is describing. Her
I wanna comment
multi-everything
on something
millennial.
real quick. He's correct, but also being disingenuous. Okay, because that supposition, okay,
Mhm.
of we'll just put it there, and the audience will be there. That kind of thing is not only is any transition to a lifestyle brand death, but we've seen that in other venues.
Right,
Okay.
but other corporations believe the lifestyle brand is totally awesome.
Right, but what I'm specifically referring to, oddly enough, weird take, but it's worth it, is cartoons in the late 80s and 90s.
Mhm.
Right? They would make cartoons, right,
Sell toys.
to sell toys, and then the consistent internal thought process is, well, we need characters that the viewer can see themselves in. Right? So what you would always get is you'd start with something cool, like Conan. And you do Conan the Adventurer, and holy shit, that cartoon for a kid's cartoon was way cooler than it had any right to be. Right? And what do we got? Well, we have Conan, and we have the Burger King Kids Club of ethnicities. We've got African jungle man. We've got a Viking pirate. We've got a acrobat action girl. We've got a non-specifically Mid-Eastern wizard in a turban. Right, and we've got Conan, who has a shield because you got to have a defensive weapon. You can't just have a sword with a animate phoenix on it because that'll be cute for the toys, right? But we have badass snake men, and we have a 4-armed winged dragon man, and we've got fighting giant apes. This is the coolest fucking kids cartoon ever, right?
I'm skipping a little bit ahead of.
No. Let me finish. So then they say, okay, we're gonna do another one. We're gonna do another Conan cartoon. We completed this one. We're gonna do another one. Cool. What's it gonna be? It's gonna be Conan and the Young Warriors. Okay, so what is it? Well, Conan is going to be a mentor. Conan the Barbarian, right? Is going to be a mentor to a group of children. Conan's going to teach children very important lessons. Yes, because they are members of all of the major nations of Hyboria. Okay, so like there's a Stygian, there's a Hyborian, there's a Aquilonian. Right. And they're all going to have different personalities, and Conan is going to guide these youth. And it's like, are you sure that's what a Conan is about? Are you sure that's what a Conan would do? And that cartoon exists. That cartoon failed after the first episode.
I didn't even know that cartoon existed.
It was shit canned so hard that it was removed from history. but it exists. I know it was there. It's not the Mandela effect. But that's the thing, is that businesses have always tried to say that people relate more to themselves than to other people. So we need to have versions of the people. For fuck's sake, the very idea that we have Robin, right? You know, the boy wonder. We need a sidekick for Batman. Why? Because we can't just have kids buying a book about a grumble-mouthed loner who lives in a mansion and beats up criminals. Can't we make this a more child-friendly book by giving him a young person comrade to go fight evil with, possibly dressed like a fucking clown on a trapeze?
Years later, that becomes very awkward.
It really does.
But I'm going to skip a little bit ahead of Wes's
Just a little bit.
commentary.
Just a little bit.
Even Alan Moore himself can write a compelling superhero when the protagonist
let's
starts
not
out
go
as a
crazy.
flawless paladin who can't fail, can't be challenged, and can never make a mistake. There's no tension, no risk, no story, just boredom. So readers walked. In Marvel, never seriously asked why. They were too busy basking in the social media praise from people who showed support with likes and retweets, but not with pull lists. Marvel stopped using sales and fandom as their metric and basically disabled the only alarm system that could have fixed them. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. Once Marvel Comics abandoned real measures of success, more G. Willow Wilsons became inevitable.
Another theme that emerges both in conversation with my younger readers and in the kinds of books they tend to consume is the following. If the system is broken, you cannot fix the system from within. You have to create a new one. To me, it
This is the big one.
seemed completely plausible for a 16-year-old superhero to fight injustice and put herself in harm's way simply to put a dent in that broken system.
So here's the thing. Here's
Go
the
ahead.
thing. You're producing a product for children, but you're an adult. At least on paper, you're an adult.
Legally, they've identified you as an adult. Whether or not you are is up to questioning.
Shouldn't you have some wisdom that you're telling in your story that you provide to your audience? Instead of saying, man, all these 16-year-olds who read my books are saying, fuck, capitalism, man. So I should write my character saying, fuck capitalism, man. Right?
So here's the thing. I understand, and I even endorse that young people have a propensity to view rebellion in an idealized light, right?
Hmm.
But as we know, as we have seen, you grow up, you cut your hair, you get a job, right?
Mhm.
Rebellion is a game for the young, right? The thing is that in the way of the meme, youth is thinking you have to burn it all down. Age and wisdom is realizing that you can reform things from within, right? She is not talking about the youth she is selling to trying to break systems. She is not talking about giving them an exemplar of their rebellious spirit, which would be an entirely different character, right?
And
And-
probably better.
And probably better. An idea of Kamala Khan, the rebel, resisting her parents, resisting authority, resisting the powers that tell her to, conform to very specific traits, right? That's a character with a will of iron, right? No, what she's saying is she and her peer group were of the opinion that comics was a broken system you couldn't fix from within, so you had to break it to make the kinds of books you wanted.
Because that is exactly what her real-life counterparts are doing.
Wilson was describing what she thought the millennial audience wanted from heroes. Not defenders of the world, but challengers to it. Rebels, rule breakers, system smashers. So that's what she tried to give them with Miss Marvel, a superhero who didn't fit Marvel's legacy, but questioned it. Kamala Khan was supposed to be a gateway to a new audience. And for a moment, it looked like it worked. But in reality, the people she wrote the comic to rebel against, Marvel's core readers, were the ones who actually showed up. Marvel editorial didn't understand Miss Marvel's short-lived success. They learned the wrong lessons.
So I'm going to share with you a different video about Miss Marvel.
Okay.
Hey, you notice it's also on Thinking Critical.
Mm.
And this was 5 years ago.
Both pilots.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. Yesterday, I had an excellent conversation with Larry Bernard. We talked about Carol
Hey,
Who
Larry.
the fuck's that Larry Bernard guy?
I don't know.
Danvers, how originally one of her defining characteristics was imposter syndrome, and some of the things Chris Claremont and other writers did to save the character and elevate her before all of that was stripped away and she became a psychotic Mary Sue character. Today, we're going to talk about Kamala Khan, the teenage superhero who takes up the mantle of Miss Marvel, and how Marvel Comics has thoroughly botched this character. I hope you enjoy.
Now, don't you like how this is a much more well-rounded presentation so far?
Well, I mean, he wanted to do good for Larry.
I mean, obviously.
Kamala Khan is a very similar sort of character. So she's a Muslim immigrant. That's the first element of her character that we know. Her family is. That's where they're grounded in. Father represents a sort of conservative Muslim immigrant story. He's conservative and traditional, but he's part of the secular world. Mother is the conservative traditional wife of that person who keeps the traditional home life in the family. Younger brother represents the more modern strain of conservative traditionalism, kind of fundamentalism, but not fundamentalism in the we're going to kill people sort of way, just being fundamental about your religion.
He puts the fun
And she
in
has an older
fundamentalism.
sister, if I remember. And so you have Kamala being pulled by all these different influences of her immigrant background. She's also in a modern school for science nerdy kids. And so she has all of her friends she's connected to that are a part of that. So right there, fundamental of that character is torn between two worlds.
Huh. Man, it sure sounds like G. Willow Wilson had an interesting idea for a character there, doesn't it?
For half a minute, yeah. There was something.
Yeah.
She gets dusted by the Kree Terrigen Mist, torn between two worlds. Is that what they focus on her character? No. Because if they focus on that in the character, then they have to write some things about immigrant life in the United States that they might feel uncomfortable with. They have to write some things about the Muslim experience in the United States that they might feel uncomfortable with, even though the creator of the character said that was the genesis for the Kamala Khan character.
And that was from Sana Amanat.
That's from Sama Amanat, yeah. There's something really good in that character. And you also have Kamala Khan both
What was that?
I didn't say anything.
Okay.
violating tenets of Islamic law within the comic, then also being super respectful to them. And that's interesting for the character. But instead, she has to be part of the contemporary gender non-conforming feminist cultural narratives that dominates current era Marvel. And we don't get a good story about her being a kid with superpowers who is torn between her life in high school and her life on the Avengers. Who's being torn between being a traditional Muslim immigrant girl and, oh, by the way, you're meeting with the President of the United States because you're on the Avengers and the President is kind of a jerk to Muslims, but you can't be a jerk to the President or it screws up what you're doing for the big world-threatening thing.
Yeah, I actually read a team up book with her and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And almost the entire dialogue of that book was Spider-Man telling her how he looked up to her and how good she was. This character's 15 years old. Spider-Man's in his 30s. He's saved the world countless times.
Yeah.
the relationship feels backwards.
It is. But, it's the same reason you're seeing lots of torch passing from male to female characters in comics and movies, because they want to have that sense of empowering women. So instead of actually empowering them by, having them accomplish something, because that would be hard writing and that would be difficult and challenging, you empower them by saying, you're great. Everything you're doing is awesome.
Yeah, and they're hoping that the reader's feelings for the person giving the praise or telling the reader that this is such a good character and someone that we need to root for, that they're just going to go along with it. But that's not really how it works. Like,
No.
The reason I like Spider-Man is because what I've seen him do and what he represents. The reason I don't really like Iron Man is because I've read some of his comics. I don't really like what he represents. He's kind of a jerk.
He's kind of a jerk, exactly.
He's not really
Exactly.
my character. He's,
So-
in my opinion, he's kind of morally ambiguous. So Iron Man doesn't really resonate with me. But with
By the way, back in this point in time, Wes was a little bit more low rent on his production values. That's his dog in the background.
like a Kamala Khan, they're just trying to transfer the feelings from that character onto them with faint praise, rather than going out there and doing the hard work of creating these stories and showing what the character is all about in hard situations and showing them overcome or maybe even fail and then overcoming.
What?
And
Characters failing? What?
it's to build up, the lore and the history of that character and why you love them, because you've seen them, go through the trials and the struggles and overcome, like we do in our everyday lives.
Yeah. But now let's get into the Carol and Kamala dynamic.
Here we
So
go.
we talked about the fundamental to the core of Carol Danvers is she was an imposter, but she's now changed. She's now this hyper competent, I'm the best Captain Marvel. And this little kid says, hey, can I take your old Miss Marvel identity? And she gives it to her, and this kid does something with it. So instead of, writing an interesting character dynamic off of that, where Carol kind of resents this kid, and it builds up to the point where the two of them have a blow up and a confrontation, and then they learn to respect each other, and Kamala realizes that Carol isn't actually the hero that she thinks she is, and it becomes a don't meet your heroes sort of story. And then Carol learns, well, wait a minute, maybe all this stuff I went through that I thought was kind of terrible actually was inspiring.
Man,
I'm
man.
glad you
Wilson
brought this
sure-
up.
G. Wilson sure had an interesting idea for a character. If only she wrote it.
I'm glad you brought this up, because there's actually something in the other video that we skipped over a little bit that I find very pertinent here. So, Thinking Critical asserted that during Civil War II, Kamala participated in pre-crime
Which she
and
did.
never suffered any negative consequences for it.
She never did.
No,
in the
she
continuity.
did. She did in the continuity. But then the actual effect of those consequences was mitigated because they never followed it up.
Yeah.
If you recall, she was on board with what Carol was doing until she saw the extrajudicial prisons, until she saw the popular girl that she hated had gone all in Hitler Youth in a blue miniskirt. Okay? And then Kamala had to turn face heel and was like, but this is wrong. The reason that they didn't follow it up is because not only did it not hit well because she didn't actually have the wherewithal to fight Captain Marvel, she was just really sad that her hero was being a bad, right? But also, we had already seen this story once before. And it's like, well, what story was that, Joe? I don't remember extrajudicial prisons and superheroes throwing people in jail. Civil War One. It's Iron Man and Spider-Man all over again. Carol was just Tony with a cooch. And Kamala Khan
maybe I should.
And Kamala Khan did not have the wherewithal to be upset enough to go try and punch Captain Marvel in the face. But Peter absolutely went and punched Tony in the face, if you recall.
Yep. Take myself down a notch on the seriousness scale. No, instead we have Hey, Kamala, you want to help me round up people for an illegal concentration camp? That's what we get instead of actual writing, where we build to something interesting with a character. It plays off of the characters.
Kind of interesting. I don't really like the MCU version of
can I level something
Spider-Man.
up real quick? Just something that randomly occurred to me because of current year.
Hmm?
Isn't it a little interesting that we have a Pakistani putting people in camps?
I mean, it's a Palestinian in El Salvador.
Right?
It's a different part of the Middle East.
I don't.
Of course.
Iron Lad. He's not really Spider-Man.
The South
But
American
in
Middle
the
East.
first movie, they
Yeah.
kind of do a nice dynamic where Spider-Man receives a gift from Tony Stark, where it's basically him saying, I deem you worthy. You know, I will need to groom you up because I see potential in you. He gives him this cool suit, and he uses it. He tries to do good. He screws it up. He almost kills a bunch of people. And
Mhm.
Tony comes back and says, I was wrong. You're not ready for this. Give it back. And then he has to go and earn it. You know, he doesn't give up because he had a trial. He goes and he earns it. He keeps fighting for what he knows is right. And Tony eventually realizes that he was ready all along and gives him back the gift and even gives him an opportunity to be on the Avengers. But he says, you know what? I'm not ready now. And that's a good mentor-mentee relationship where they're observing and they're working off of each other and they're both kind of growing. But you don't get that.
And then that sets up for the amazing sequence in Infinity War, where Peter once again proves he's worthy by getting on the spaceship. And Tony's like, "Well, you're an Avenger now, kid."
And you know that's not part of comic book lore, but that's good quality writing if you want to build up a relationship to where they're not just talking about how great each other are. You know, there needs to be some failure, and you know sometimes you have to see your mentor. You know, you have to think he's a character.
We have the same problem. That's the really lost opportunities for both of these characters, Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel. And they're both great characters. They both have stuff that makes sense if you're thinking at an editorial level. You know what? The Muslim community within the United States is becoming a growing community. They're also a growing community globally.
It's almost like G. Willow Wilson's entire argument about why she was doomed to fail was a lie, wasn't it, Joe?
Weirdest thing.
So our young consumers are much more diverse and multicultural oriented. So having a Muslim character will be good for our brand. All makes sense. And hey, we have a good creative director who's Muslim who's going to take editorial point. We have a Muslim writer who I have some issues with how she wrote Miss Marvel #1 and some of the early ones, but she eventually gets her legs on that. Who can write the character? It's a great idea. We should do this. But they don't actually commit to writing something good and solid. So Miss Marvel #1. They have a whole sequence talking about the kids looking at the hot dogs.
This is where she lost me because she's a convert. I'm a convert. So what I'm about to, this is where she lost me.
So
even though different religions, this means this is also in some level very personal to you. This should speak to your experience. So she's fucking up. She's fucking up on a personal level with you.
Yes. It's about two different religious groups who have the same relationship with pork.
Right.
Your face, the writer, G. Willow Wilson. She's a convert. Mm-hmm. I'm a Jewish convert. So we have a different relationship to pork than our co-religionists. And Muslim kids steal pork at an early age in the United States. Jewish kids steal pork at an early age in the United States because it's everywhere. Your parents, if you're observant, tell you can't have it. So of course you're going to have it when you're somewhere else and your parents aren't in control of things.
That is an interesting observation, isn't it?
It is an interesting observation, and I actually want to throw out there, not having read the book in question, but I just want to throw this out there. If you wanted to have comedy in your book, and you wanted to tweak noses a little bit, You have Kamala steal the hot dog, then you have her feel bad about it. Then you
Oh,
have
no.
her talk to one of her friends
Oh,
about
no.
it, be like, I'm gonna go to hell. And they're like, why? It's like, I stole a hot dog. And they're like, are you
She doesn't
kidding?
even steal it. She doesn't even steal it. That's the worst part.
Right, no, that's the thing. I'm
To do
saying
that.
I'm saying you have her actually
Yeah.
steal it.
And that sequence with the kids in the hot dogs at the gas station, that made absolutely no sense from a authentic grounding in the character standpoint. And G. Willow Wilson probably knows better, but she also didn't want to write something more realistic because that might be offensive to the audience they're pitching the comic book for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of a little bit of why this is a good character and why the bad writing decisions coming out of not building a competent story have gotten off the weeds. And I think really, like, as much as I hate strong giant She-Hulk, you can make that into an interesting character. Her wanting to be more like Bruce because she kind of was tired of always being thought of being the sexy, smart one. You can make that an interesting story for the character, but you have to put in the work.
So a lot of what you've been saying is that these are good quality characters, and in case of Carol Danvers, for a period of time, very well executed, and in case of Kamala Khan, I think maybe not very well executed the whole time. But what's the one reason they can't do it? Do you think it's because writers nowadays are scared to show female characters fail, or maybe make a wrong choice and then have to go back on it and change direction, or maybe take that Muslim character that you've just introduced and maybe showing that she's not as powerful as Spider-Man right now and showing her grow, that they just kind of have to throw them in there as being overpowerful and maybe too close to being paragons before they've actually.
Now you notice, while Wes is more balanced in this version of the character study, he does have a certain track he's aiming for.
So here's the thing. I was gonna mention this a little later, but now's a good time. If we had any audience tonight, if anyone was here, because I've had it on comments, nobody's commenting. I can only assume no one's watching. We're speaking into the void. When I watched this with Ty, I remarked that anyone who watches our show intermittently might think that we're a bunch of angry black-pilled incels, that we just hate on everything because hating gets views. But no, this is like a time capsule, and you can see the difference, right?
Yeah.
Thinking Critically was more balanced or more moderate in the past, but still had the undercurrent of looking for conspiracy where incompetence would suit.
Well, look,
right?
back then he also had less audience, so
Right.
I mean,
And relative to ourselves, I don't think we've ever actually been of a position, and this is probably part of the reason why we don't get the super mega views. We're not Sargon. We don't go, well, the problem is women. Why did you let them out of the kitchen? That's not our supposition, right? Our supposition here at the Gospel, and if I wish Church was here, he could set me right and tell me I'm wrong, is what we are more about is we're disappointed in bad comics. We look at these bad comics, we see how they could be good comics, and we just come away sad because it's like, oh, close, but so far away. And this, again, time capsule, this is a perfect example of that, because you and I now, we talk about it, it's like, yeah, no, Kamala Khan is a decade old. It's trash. It was always trash. It never should have been tried. But here you are saying, this could be good if they just wanted it to be. And I think that's still true. I think it's still true that it could be good.
Yeah, let's finish this out.
Yeah.
Those type of that type of experience or knowledge.
So there are several levels to this problem, but I'm going to address the one that's the most interesting and fun to me because you probably haven't seen The Gentleman yet. Excellent movie with Matthew McConaughey in it. I recommend you go see it. So there's a sequence where Colin Farrell is playing a boxing arena coach, and there's a black character, and one of his other students at the gym insults the black character in a way that's slightly racially disparaging. He's saying, no. He's not saying all black people are this. He's saying you're this and you're also black. But he's saying it from love as your friend because he wants you to get off your butt and get in the ring and do it. And we've lost the ability to really see things in nuance because the internet has removed our ability to put emotional nuance into day-to-day interactions. Because the internet is just the text, which is maybe 20% of how we communicate with people. And that's a large part of the problem, is since there's no context that these writers have in how people actually interact, they're not putting in their writing. Also, like I said with the hot dog thing with Kamala Khan, they don't want to be offensive, so they don't want to ground the writing in an actual real verisimilitude of the human experience. And that goes back to imposter syndrome in Carol Danvers, or Kamala Khan, the girl torn between two worlds. Those are real things that people everywhere can feel. I mean, you're living in the Philippines right now. You're in a different country than the country you were born and raised and lived most of your life in. So you experience the Philippines as somebody who's lived there for a long time, but you're not really from there. So that's something you can relate to if that character was well written and well executed.
Yes. I live in the Philippines, but culturally I'm not Filipino, no. Everything's a little off to me still.
Yeah. So you could relate to a character who's struggling with that. And within the superhero genre, there's all sorts of things you could build onto that with aliens and mutants and cool robots and cyborgs that are still at their core about being torn between two worlds and the struggle to how to put your own identity out into existence while you're torn like that. You can relate to a character like that if it's well written and executed. So the problem with these two characters, how they've been written in the broader SJW quote-unquote era of comics, is they're not grounded in things people can relate to. They're not grounded in the things that the people who wear the Trump hats and the people who wear the Trump hats can all say, you know, this is something I experience and relate to in my own life. That's why this will be like the comics in the 1970s and late 60s, with a lot of awkward things that nobody wants to talk about or be fond about, with a few moments of like Speedy shooting up heroin to say, wow, comics were really about great stuff back then, weren't they?
Larry, I think we're gonna, wrap this.
That last point is actually really true.
Yeah.
Because I've read some comics from the late 60s and mid 70s. Before we had certain things like Secret Wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Marvel, I've mentioned this before, but I honestly think people don't understand. Marvel used to be so ridiculous as a company because they would just put out anything.
Yeah.
I remember a special that was basically
the G.I. Joe comics came out because Stan met a guy in the bathroom.
Well, specifically what I remember is there's a Marvel comic that's basically it's a big special issue type deal, but not one that was very popular, so it's probably worth $1 million now. But in it was basically like, what if Mad Magazine had scripted all the characters, so it was like a multiversal late night TV show, and everybody was making horrible jokes. And
what the
yeah, it might have been what the and everybody was off character. Everyone was saying stupid referential humor. It was drawn not badly, but it clearly wasn't their best artist because it wasn't dynamic. It was just everybody just sort of walking here, they're walking there, here they are in a room. It was like a Gru era comic. It was just the weirdest shit because somebody would buy it.
As any fool can plainly see.
Right.
No, I was trying to set you up for the Gru joke.
Oh. I have sadly not read enough Gru. To my eternal shame. I aspire to Gru.
So,
but go ahead.
What was you're about to finish thought?
What I was going to say is, if you think of Marvel as a company within a historical context, they've had highs and lows, right? And so making a bad book is not intrinsically wrong. If you idolize one of the big two and you're like, these are the greatest comic companies ever, they've never done anything wrong, you're lying to yourself, right? But with how the economy is, with how the market is, a bad book has never hurt more. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The money is so constrained. You shouldn't be wasting your time on thought-provoking political books
I mean,
about.
as we talked about though, as me 5 years ago said, they're actually not thought provoking in how they've set those books up for Miss Marvel.
Right, but they want a style that they are. They want you to think that they are.
It's vibes.
Right. And I'm saying vibes is a starting place that does not work for your property.
No.
Don't sell on vibes. For the love of God.
I mean, selling on vibes is how Marco Rubio may complete his 12-year-old dream of liberating Cuba. That's a thing that Marco Rubio said as a kid on his grandfather's front porch is, when I'm grown up, I'll liberate Cuba.
Voting on vibes is going to cause the police department to leave New York en masse.
Yeah. But speaking of vibes, you saw something with vibes. It's another classic, which is part of why I was interested in revisiting that classic of my experience with Wes. Let me do this here to make sure I can see it. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. And then we're going to share a screen because it's resurfaced for some reason. The time that Jean Grey made Bobby Drake gay.
Yes. So why I want to talk about this, a report by Joe, is not because I give a shit about this or because I indeed think anyone else gives a shit about this.
So first, I want to take a look at the sequence of this first page first. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 8 panels. And what are our characters doing in 8 panels? They're standing and talking. So right now, this page layout gets a big F because if what we're going to do, at the very least, Jean and Bobby should be walking, right?
I mean, sure. Show them walking from the scene rather than hot cut to them standing an unknown amount of space away or in the same location.
And I salute our new professor's unbelievable hotness. Bobby, what? Come over here. What? Why do you say things like that? What about Magic's hotness? Because she is. Well, Bobby, bro, I gotta say, crazy Russian chicks, they look hot, but really the experience with them isn't worth it. You shouldn't do that.
Remember the 12th rule of acquisition: never stick your dick in crazy.
No, I know, and believe me, she knows. But ... we go to the next panel. We gotta up the next panel, which also is terrible. It is also a crime against comics page layout. And we have to share that as well with the people. But you know what? Come on. What's happening? Bobby, you're gay. Now you also notice the facial details are absolute shit. There was one image of Bobby that was used for all but one of the panels. They just cut and paste it. For Jean, they cut and paste all but one image.
So wait a minute. I want to mention something here because I didn't notice this until you just deep analyzed it. So Bobby looks offended, as he should, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you know, and then he has this absolute blank look on his face, and she says, "Come on." Blank look on his face, her waving her hands in the air, and he says, "What's happening?" Not, "What do you mean?" Not, "What am I supposed to say?" What's happening? And then she looks at him and says, Bobby, you're gay. Not a statement of fact, not a statement of, not we know you're gay or we accept you're gay. No. The command.
You're gay.
This is literally the mind rape. His
And also-
mind blanked out and she decided he was gay.
And also,
Holy shit!
it's confirmed by the page. But let's also talk about what their stated authorial intent is. If their authorial intent is Jean because she's a dirty telepath.
Well, this
dirty
isn't
girl.
even Jean, remember. This is this her
This is
daughter Rachel,
no,
or is this
no, this
time
is time travel.
Time travel Jean?
Time displaced. Time travel. Jean.
Right.
So first of all, because there is no drawing of facial details or emotions, and they copy and paste things, there's the Bobby at the beginning is like going, but, which is a questioning thing. That first panel with Bobby, you see valid emotions. Jean's like a robot, then Bobby's like a robot, then Jean's like a robot, then Bobby and Jean are like a robot, and they don't say anything. Bobby still like a robot. Then Jean has, I don't really know how would you describe the emotional output of that face?
Of her last face?
Yeah.
I mean, it's emphatic. She's trying to be empathetic, trying to reach him, but it could also, due to the lack of context, bodies, language, etc., could also be her, trying to press her will out
Or
and
she could be really,
reshape his brain.
or she could be really constipated.
Could be.
It's also look at that background. Just look at that. Nothing.
It's really blue. Yeah. That time that the X-Men were in a void and talked about homosexuality.
So you wanted to bring this up to the show,
Right. So here's why I wanted to bring this up, because we're gonna do a little more reading, and I'm gonna direct you to some more comic pages in a minute. So somebody named Stinky Vermin, and I don't care about the opinion of Vermin. You've already lost me. Says, I don't know how you think that's what these pages are saying. And then somebody said Angel was gay before, though. Don't worry. Somebody points out to him that that's Iceman and not Angel.
Hey, Wibbs, there's something going on with House of 100 Corpses?
Sorry, what?
I didn't know there was something going on with House of 100 Corpses.
I did not mention House of 1,000 Corpses. What's going on with House of 1,000 Corpses?
But yeah, so the Stinky Vermin.
So yeah, so then someone else, the original poster said, I didn't get that from this. And then someone say Merrick and Rock Crusher, who we're going to talk about a little bit, because they get into the pit with you, said, not what happened, but sure, Grandpa, nice fantasies you have there. Now go back to bed. And then somebody else said, keep your delusions to yourself, Grandpa. And I'm sure it's a fucking bot. You responded to Merrick the Rock Crusher, right? And you said that they decided to retcon Bobby's sexuality in this comic. In the text, Jean altering his mind isn't out of character for her, right? To which Merrick and the Rock Crusher says, good thing we know that's not what she did here. Plus, IIRC, there were hints he was gay long before this. And someone named Jahiram said, I'm out of loop. Where were these hints? And Merrick the Rock Crusher couldn't find examples because they don't fucking exist. But did post from Fabian Nicea's Twitter about him claiming that, quote, this whole thing is such bullshit. Readers were asking if Iceman was gay or if we could make him gay 25 years ago. We talked about the time and it just wasn't time yet. It's great that such avenues can be explored now. He goes on for some time, but the fact of the matter is he's basically saying, we didn't make him gay then, and it's my fan fiction that he's gay now.
And God love Fabian. I know people who know Fabian. And that man needs to stay off Twitter.
So the other text, I'm going to send you the link here so we can read this as well. And would you like to read modern Bobby or old Bobby?
Give me a second here.
I'm going to put it in private if you haven't seen it.
Oh, hold up. In real life, this guy caught with 100 skeletons that he stole from his cemetery.
No
He
shit.
also used D&D dungeoneering gear to go underground into the mausoleum to get the
Wow.
bodies. I need to find-
Wow.
I need to find that. That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty awesome. Okay. I linked you if you want to put it up on the screen.
Yeah, give me
It's
that.
in the private.
I see.
Just because I want to finish this so we can go look at skeletons. Holy shit.
That is pretty awesome.
It's like, look it up now. It's like-
All right, here we go.
okay.
I have to obviously open this in a new tab. Are you seeing
Yeah.
the new tab? All right.
Yeah.
And what is the young Miss Jean Grey doing here? Support, don't mind me. Support to talk to me? We're the same person from different time periods. I mean, no, you're not. That's not how time travel works in the Marvel universe, but we're not going to go there. I'm not going to murder you or anything. That would be bad for me. True. Even though the desire to do so is so overwhelming, I'm gay, it turns out. Also, this art is terrible. It's really bad.
Well, it's yet again a void. It's just a void of color.
Well, not
Different
just
color
that.
void.
It's not just that. Most of these faces don't have emotions. So that means you are too. Oh my god, I'm going to kill Hank McCoy for bringing you here. So, I don't think I want to live my whole life hiding this part of myself. I understand maybe why you did, but I'm still not sure I understand why you still do. This is why nobody likes you, Jean Grey. I mean, except for a Canadian with an alcohol problem.
No, go to the next page. It gets better. It gets better
Yeah.
in how worse it is.
Yeah, give me a second. Doot. No, everybody likes her too much. True. You're a narcissist, Gene. That's why later when the plants replace you, you end up having a throuple. We don't like her because we were hiding something even from ourselves. True. Nobody likes you being like that. But hey, you don't have to do anything. I just wanted to talk to you about it. You can keep doing whatever you're doing. But I'm stuck here, and I think I'm going to try to live my life this way. You're going to be a mutant and gay. How are you more put together than me? So you are gay.
So I want to point out, comics are a visual storytelling medium, but somebody literally made a meme out of an aphorism.
Hmm?
So you've heard the phrase "the coin dropped," implying the idea that the thing that that's been floating above everybody's head has landed, in your cup. You've realized it. You found
Yeah.
the money,
Yeah.
right?
It's right
So
here.
he's right. He's standing here leaning against the desk, and then there's Gene staring at him, and there's Bobby staring at him. And I want to restate that again. Everything Gene has said is presented as a command or a statement of objective fact, which means if she was reaching out with her mind and rewriting people, she's just reaffirming the things she wants reaffirmed. And then we see new Bobby's feet, and then we see a literal coin
No,
hit the ground.
oh yeah, that is new Bobby's feet. Yeah, the little coin. And again,
The penny dropped.
and the thing that bothers me is the bad facial detailing. And like you look at Jean's eyes in this bottom panel, you can't see any emotions in those eyes. Those are dead, soulless eyes.
Oh Jesus Christ! It trust me, it's gonna get worse.
Yeah,
So do you want to go on to the next page?
absolutely.
I didn't realize this was 4 pages. I thought it was only the 2.
No. It's a multi-pager.
Mhm.
Here we go. I put all my energy into being a mutant and an X-Man, putting my life in danger every 10 minutes for someone else. And that's not a brag. I made that choice. And you ask yourself, can I just have one part of my life that I'm not being persecuted for? Today and maybe tomorrow, and then next week and the week, blah blah blah. This is really bad writing.
Yep, this is Bendis level writing.
You could literally cut the number of thought bubbles in that second panel in half. And then Gene, it's not too late. some people don't come out until they're like 80. And we notice he's manipulating the snow, and then he has a goo in his hand. That
Right.
is
He went from hard to soft.
that is some very very gross writing.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? He's wondering if it's selfish to put just like 10% of the person he is into the X-Men into making himself happy in his whole life for once. Now you look at that look on his face. That's not the look on the face of someone who's like saying, "Yeah, no, that's true." It's like, "What are you doing to me, you bitch?"
Well, because let's be clear. He says, "What are you thinking?" And she starts outlining his thoughts as though she has actively invaded his mind, violating his privacy to tell this other version of Bobby exactly what adult Bobby is thinking.
There's a big argument that says you might be a better X-Man and a better teacher if you're ready to be the whole you. Oh God, I'm shaking. I don't shake. I'm made of ice. Can I ask a question? I want you to be really honest with me. And you also notice older Bobby now looks younger when he's drawn. He goes from looking like a grown adult in the earlier pages to looking like a twink. That's
Right.
That's kind of unsettling.
So we're
and it
going to
also and it also does imply the transformation apotheosis.
Oh no, we have proof. When you get to the last page here, before we read anything, come to the bottom of the page.
Also, oh my God, look! I'm sorry, that the top panel that is really bad.
Yeah, but seriously, what the fuck is that purple abomination?
Oh, that's bisexual lighting.
Right, but here's the thing. He's like you said, he had an adult looking face. He's become younger as he has accepted the gay, right?
Mhm.
And then out of nowhere, he has this fucking no one smiles like that, and these bug eyes.
Mhm.
Okay, what
When
this
he's in
is
a
this
mental
is
hug.
this is literally his brain becoming damaged. He has become an autist. Okay, because Jean Grey has rewritten his personality. He's like, just add blood coming down his nose, you know what's going on.
Now let's talk about these first two panels. Do you think Angel is hot? Oh God, yes. Well, first of all, the original X-Men was not groundbreaking writing. That's why the original X-Men didn't really sell well. That's why X-Men wasn't a top-selling book until Chris Claremont sharpened the ideas.
Yeah.
Warren was the rich kid. Bobby was the class clown. The class clown wouldn't be interested in the rich kid unless it's a rich girl and it's your parents don't approve of me sort of storyline. But Warren's parents didn't approve of Warren.
Right.
So that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Oh no, it gets better. Let's just address the 8 million pound gorilla in the room. So a lot of people like to say that the X-Men is a parable for various minorities, which is true. That's Claremont's intent.
That's Claremont's intent.
Bear with me here for a minute. It's true insofar as in the late 60s and in the early 70s, comparing the mutant plight to the struggle of the civil rights movement in America was a masterstroke. Okay? If you wanted to tell a story about being a mutant and being gay, or being gay as being a mutant, right? The fact of the matter is, you don't need to make Bobby gay.
No.
Because Warren Worthington exists.
Although
and when
Warren
people
Worthington did have a hot Asian wife.
Right, but here's the thing. Why didn't they do Angel? Well, because Angel has a hot Asian wife. That's not the problem. What was Warren Worthington like before he became the Archangel? Most people don't know. Warren Worthington used to wear regular suits.
Mm-hmm.
Warren Worthington used to basically belt his wings to his back so he could pass to hide his mutancy.
Which is
literally
a more obvious gay allegory.
A more obvious gay allegory. And his parents hated that he was a mutant. His father felt it was a private shame.
In the original X-Men movies, his father did the conversion therapy metaphor,
Right.
specifically to fix his son.
Right. Can't you be just less of a mutant? It is literally the good story is right in front of you, and you actively chose character assassination on a different character who was perfectly happy being Iceman.
Yeah.
How dare he just be the cool guy? That's cool. Fuck him.
See, how could you keep that in all these years? Because he's so hot, it's just annoying. Gene, come here. You're gonna hug me. I am. Who the fuck talks like that?
No one.
No hugs from any more Iceman. You're freezing, and it's tough on the front parts. I mean, first of all, this is a Bobby Drake who understands boobs
Quote,
and how boobs
quote,
work.
How about a mental hug? What's a mental hug? Proof! She just fucking mind raped him. And if you don't want to say that it's not mind rape, he had consent, I'm sorry. Surprise butt sex is still rape.
I want a mental hug. It's Storm. She wants everyone in the cafeteria. Everyone, does that include us? Yes, it does. And this this version of Jean Grey is terrible. I forgot how terrible this version of the character was.
Right. So the reason I had us read this, okay, was because I commented on this as well.
Mhm.
Okay. And got chewed out. Okay. This is fucking funny. So it's Merrick and the Rock Crusher again.
Just a second.
Okay.
At Rune, can we refer to what she's engaging in might be called gene therapy?
Yes. Was that Wibbs?
That was Wibbs. That was good.
Wibbs, you win the internet. we here at the Gospel recognize a master shitlord. So you commented about the gene therapy, and I said, and as illustrated later in this thread, they had newly rewired Bobby have a standoff with a grown-ass man Bobby to gaslight his modern self into accepting his new gay past. But no, nothing skeevy going on here. People often need to be convinced of their own sexuality by a third party. And Merrick and the Rock Crusher said, referring to the exact same dude at an earlier point in their life as third party is so stupid, Lamau.
No, I mean,
it's literally another Bobby Drake. It's
Also,
not the same Bobby Drake. It's another version of Bobby Drake. They are two separate people.
now I do want to pull up Wibbs' story because I found it here.
Yes.
1 second.
This is our palate cleanser. We're gonna go.
This is our palate cleanser. 1 second.
Woo!
All right. It's on TMZ. We know this is a quality news source.
Most excellent.
Let me scroll down here. Pennsylvania ghoul. Cops alleged crimes were very sloppy. Didn't cover tracks in stealing 100 corpses.
I don't know. If he stole 100, he was probably pretty successful.
I mean, he's got Monster, Liquid Death. I mean, that's a good cocktail. Pennsylvania man who allegedly stole more than 100 skeletal remains from grave sites wasn't exactly a criminal mastermind, at least according to prosecutors. New legal docs obtained by TMZ shed light on how Jonathan Gerlach allegedly went about sloppily turning his Pennsylvania home into a haunted house. I mean, that's a high-quality haunted house. Prosecutors allege Gerlach left behind tons of evidence of his crimes. They found cigarettes, Monster Energy, Liquid Death, and NOS Energy cans in the crypts he allegedly burglarized, and he used his Ace Hardware rewards card to pay for some of the tools he used to break into the graves. Cops say they searched Gerlach's home in Ephrata, PA, and discovered 100 sets of full or partial human remains in his basement. In the docs, prosecutors say his family saw a partially decomposed corpse hanging in the basement, but were afraid to tell the police. You know,
I mean, I can't blame him. I'd be fucking afraid to tell the police.
Yeah. Prosecutors say Gerlach admitted to selling some of the remains he stole online. It was only a fraction of what was found in his home. That's uncomfortable. In docs, prosecutors say Gerlach targeted 4 underground vaults and 1 cemetery, gaining entry by moving huge slabs, blah, blah, blah. Girl Life left behind cigarettes and energy drinks next to the plastic tarp containing human remains. It was discovered just outside the mausoleum. Another time, prosecutors alleged Girl Life left behind cigarette butts, liquid deaths, and Noth's energy. So much for covering up those tracks. Prosecutors say that in November they were called to a cemetery where a Muslim had been robbed. The marble flooring inside was destroyed, and the inside was found a white nylon rope with a carabiner still attached. Position as the robber rappelled 10 feet down into the crypt using your D&D skills. Delaware County District Attorney Tanner Rouse slapped Girl Life with a slew of charges, including criminal mischief, criminal trespass, intentional desecration of a public monument, and abuse of corpses.
I mean, look, if he's breaking into crypts, I have to know, did he have torches and a 10-foot pole?
I mean, he needed to.
Yeah, these are vital things for avoiding the traps in the crypt.
Also, you need pythons. You always need
Indeed.
pythons.
You always need pythons and 50 feet of rope.
And ball bearings.
So to now that we've cleansed ourselves of some of the outrage and we can address this like adults, my actual question for why I brought up Bobby Drake's gene therapy again is it me, because this has come up and this is clearly AstroTurf, or are people really trying to gaslight that what went down didn't go down and that everyone liked it and that it was okay? Because it seems to me like they're trying to say like this wasn't hated when it happened.
No, we're going to get on a roller coaster, Joe.
Okay.
So you start on the roller coaster. You're commenting about comics. You're commenting about art. And you say some very inflammatory things. And you get a lot of views. And you get a lot of people subscribing to you who agree with your views. Eventually, you hit the magic number, and Uncle Elon starts giving you money. And then you escalate. You're no longer talking about comic books. You're no longer talking about pop culture and movies. You might dip into K-pop because those people are crazy. Puts up your money metrics. Then you segue to politics. And then you talk about Donald Trump. You talk about Cuba. You talk about Iran. You get your money up real good. And then you start talking about cryptocurrency. You do a pump, you do a dump, you get out, you're a millionaire. That's the pipeline.
Right.
It's all a grift all the way down. Now you might talk about gay Marvel Comics characters and then make a frog and then pretend to be a racist with Nick Fuentes. That is a common strategy in certain parts of Africa. But yeah, I'm glad I had the opportunity to rewatch that Kamala Khan video we did. Wes and I did.
Yeah.
I felt that was good quality content I produced. So we were going to talk about some other stuff, but talking about G. Willow Wilson and how she's fake and how she's just saying the stuff that glazes the people who run Marvel Comics, and how there's a possibility to make a good Kamala Khan comic. Like in the original Kamala Khan story, she broke out of her home to go to a party with the other kids. She drank booze. And then she got superpowers. We could have had that Kamala Khan. That Kamala Khan could have had some interesting comic book stories. But no, we can't have someone who's transgressive and a liminal figure challenging stereotypes. Especially in a day and age where we want people to think that Muslims are normal people, just like you and me.
So here's the thing. This is a very interesting thing. This is also why the racial stack theory of imagery doesn't work. Okay? So the young girl, they got to play Kamala Khan in the TV show.
Super huge fan of the comic.
Right. Super fan of the comic. Actually, apparently a joy to work with, a wonderful person. Really glad to have been there. Like, she deserves a career.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
like the ending sequence of the Marvels where she talks about the Young Avengers initiative, which they
Yeah.
were setting up, which isn't going to happen because they
Right.
fucked up the bag. That was good.
Yeah.
If they were able to segue into something with the Young Avengers quicker, they could have had something.
But here's the thing. I'm gonna come at this from a weird angle. She's a wonderful actress. She deserves the chance. She's the wrong actress for this part, and it has nothing to do with her ethnicity.
Okay.
She's too precocious. She's a cutie. No, stay with me for a minute.
Okay.
She's a cutie. Okay. Growing up, my mom got me a book series I've mentioned before in passing called Dealing with Dragons. And in Dealing with Dragons, it's a fantasy land, and the small kingdom has a problem. They have a daughter they've got to marry off for political reasons. And she's one of several daughters. And all the other daughters are honey blonde, airheads, and they do what they're told. They follow the job, right? They sew, they sing, they recite poetry. They're fucking useless arm candy, but they are political objects. Main character is about 6 foot tall, raven haired, and has no time for this bullshit. And she wants to do the things she's not allowed to do. So, for instance, they were teaching her to read because she has to be able to do poetry and sing songs. So she muscled the king's exchequer into teaching her math and numbers. Right? So she could do her own books and read, histories. And they were proud, but they were like, that's not really appropriate. So then she was told you have to learn dance. So she didn't want to learn dance. So she muscled the sword master into teaching her swordsmanship. Right? There's art of the character, and she famously wears combat boots under her dress. Okay? The thing is that this character, because Fantasyland and fantasy art, is always presented as white. And it doesn't mean shit to me. It doesn't matter to me. Because the characters are great. Right? But basically, she is told, you're going to get married. We've arranged it. No, we don't have time for any of this other chicanery. We don't care about your wooing period, because anytime we've tried to set you up with someone, you browbeat them off until they've left, and we just can't keep doing this. So she runs away from home and gives herself to the dragons so that some knight can come rescue her. And then, of course, when the knights show up, she runs them off and finds out that being a dragon's right hand is actually a useful skill. You do things like organize the horde, organize the books, translate the texts, weird stuff like that she'd actually rather be doing. But the reason I mention it, okay, is you have a white character do these things. Nobody complains. Nobody mentions anything. Okay? On paper, a brown character should be able to do them. No problem. Right? And if the actress in question just hear me out. If the actress in question looked the part, right? If she was a 20-year-old woman who didn't have a baby face and looked like a troublemaker, like a person who gets into it with people, right? They might be able to swing it. But they wanted an adorable, teen-friendly Muslim character, right? And they're like, well, we can't have a brown Muslim defying standards. That we can't give them the white traits, which is of course not what that is at all, but that's how their brains think about it, right? Somehow her being a Muslim and being of color means she can only be in certain other different stories. Because she can't be too white. Right? This is not my assertion. I think any character can do anything as long as it's well told. This is the assertion of the people who look at you and I and say, we're the racists, Larry.
Yeah.
They do a racism and then they blame us for it.
Yeah. That is the nature of it. Well,
you wanted to say a couple of things about the young woman, because I want to be clear. I really have no problem against her. I think she's great.
I think a precocious Kamala Khan character is fine. because she's precocious in the comics sometimes.
Right.
But I think we're going to end the show on this. It was not a deep show, but it was good.
Well, I mean, there are a couple of honorable mentions to things here. They started a they're always asking people to sign them. You sign them and tell the people if there's political change is not going to happen.
Change.org.
Yeah, they started a change.org type thing to quote end the misogyny at Marvel Comics. They want Sieber, Subursky, Nicolo, and Tim Sweeley and Tom Brevoort fired for what's going on in Magic books right now.
I mean, one of those people, Tom Brevoort, should be fired.
Right, but not because he's a misogynist. He should be fired because his books suck. Sony is opening up the door to possibly realizing they can't do Spider-Man without help. And the one that I posted about twice because I'm mad about it, Blade has been canned. The Mashallah Ali Blade is done, but they're instead going to turn it into Midnight Suns, except they don't have the Midnight Suns, and that pisses me off.
Well, Sony's given them the rights to Morbius back.
I mean, that's okay, but they're not doing Morbius either. Did you not look at the link I sent? Do you not know who the Midnight Suns are supposed to be?
I know who they're supposed to be.
Do you know who they say they're going to be?
I don't want to think about who they say because they suck.
Well, first of all, 2 of these have actually already been proven to not be true because the actors in question will not work with Disney again. So they want to do the Black Knight with Kit Harington. It's not going to happen. They want to do the Moon Knight, which is Oscar Isaac. It's not going to happen. Oscar's out. He did his bit for King Country for Star Wars. He wants real jobs.
Well, here's the thing. Oscar still has contractual obligations for Marvel. So,
well, there's that, but I believe the intimation is that he's trying to weasel out of it because of the politics of Disney's Palestinian stance, which is not a good look for anyone involved.
No, Oscar's actually backed off of that.
But
because several major production networks have said, "Listen, if you hold this position, you're not going to be able to get work." And when the total number of studios is shrinking, and 2 of those studios become no-goes, and there's only 2 other studios left, it's simple math.
Yeah. But the other supposed Midnight Suns they want to do are Mashallah Ali as Blade, which I don't think is going to happen. The Ghost Rider, although they just used the comics Ghost Rider because they clearly have not found a replacement for Nick Cage yet. Wong, and while I like the actor for Wong, the fact of the matter is why would you have Wong and not Doc Strange? I understand that
Wong is
Benedict
cheaper.
Cumberbatch is expensive, but why isn't Wong just as expensive? That man's a well-known actor. The guy that played Werewolf by Night, which I saw his TV show, and the Man-Thing.
Yeah.
And you know what the problem here is with this list? Do you know how many of these characters are Midnight Suns?
Blade?
2 of them.
Rider?
Midnight Blade and Ghost Rider. None of the rest of them are Midnight Suns. This is not Midnight Suns. This is like the Midnight Suns video game, which is also not the Midnight Suns. This is just fucking Goth Avengers, which is not what the Midnight Suns were.
I mean, but hold up. Goth Avengers would be pretty cool.
No, Goth Avengers would be ass. Because guess what? That's just Marvel following DC. Because I saw Justice League Dark, where they had John Constantine, Zatanna, Swamp Thing, Batman, and Deadman on a team fighting a cult of problems. It's the same bullshit, different day. I want an actual Midnight Suns movie with the actual Midnight Suns.
And
okay?
on that screaming rant from her, I think it's time to pull the plug.
We must escape.
Catch y'all next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Wibs.